Hi everyone! Today I want to do a book review on Haruki Murakami's The Wind-Up Bird Chronicles. I read this book a little while ago and I have been really putting off doing this book review because, as you will soon find out, I don't really know how to feel about this book. I'm so nervous. The book was first published in 1997 in Japanese, and in 2003 was translated into English by J. Rubin. Set in 1980s Japan, the book covers a span of several years. This was admittedly my first and only Murakami book, so I have no idea how it compares to the rest of his work. As a Western reader, there was an inherent disconnect. I mean, the fact that it's translated from another language into English already creates some kind of disconnecting problems. Not only that, but I'm very unfamiliar with Japanese culture, both present day, 1980s, as well as the historical relationship between Russia and Japan, which is very prevalent in the book. I'm also not sure how normalized it is to have this kind of connection to clairvoyance and psychic abilities. That was a huge theme in this book, and I don't know if that's very typical of the Japanese culture or if it was very atypical and Murakami just kind of normalized it. The book is divided into 3 parts, and trust me, this will save your sanity. The book begins with Toru Okada, the book's main character, and the disappearance of his cat, Noboru Wataya. Noboru the cat is actually named after his estranged brother-in-law. Throughout most of part 1, I was kind of wondering why I should care and why I should empathize with this seemingly listless character. It didn't really get interesting until the last couple of chapters of part 1, in which case I was totally hooked. The end of part 1 is the first point in the book where he makes use of flashbacks specific to World War II and the Japanese and Russian relations. You're kind of transported from talking about this jobless, emotionless man who has lost his cat and lost his wife, and then suddenly you're transported to another time, another world, through the discussion that he has with a somewhat stranger. The flashback itself is actually a scene from the memory of a man that he meets, and this man actually witnessed the flaying of his commander in the army. There was an especially evil Russian commander who kind of weaves his way through the flashback portion of the story. He got some of his Mongolian militants to skin this man alive, and it was probably the most fascinating thing I've ever read. After part 2 of this book, I needed an emotional break. I literally shut the book and I was like, okay, I'm glad I got to this point, but I cannot pick up this book again for a little while. At one point I was reading and it was another flashback but into more recent history, and a character was in his deceased sister's room and he was masturbating and smelling her clothes that had been untouched in the room for a little while. And my mom saw that I was reading it and she was like, oh, that looks very interesting. What's it about? I don't know. Typically when I finish a book, I feel this sense of accomplishment in completing a task and having enjoyed a piece of literature. By the end of this book, I felt completely empty. It's a narrative that really violates you emotionally as a reader. It feels pretty impossible to pinpoint what about this book got under my skin. It is quite long and it's not exactly action-packed. It may have been the systematic destruction of everyone that Toru Okada meets that was the kind of insidious hold over me. Toru Okada is pretty much a blank slate. He is barely this empty vessel in which the story can kind of progress forward. He has a 15-year-old neighbor, Mei Kasahara. She's totally fascinated by him and watches his every movement. Is really the only one who asks him why he's not concerned about the fact that his wife left him, why he can't go out and find her. It was so difficult for me to empathize with Toru Okada at all, and I really think that that's why Mei Kasahara existed in the first place. She needed to be that kind of counterbalance so that people wouldn't think that you're totally involved in this completely devoid human being's life. Krita and Maltakano were sisters, and they were introduced towards the end of part 1 and featured heavily in part 2 of the book. They are mysterious, developed, but ultimately good-intentioned people. Quickly after their involvement, however, they completely disappear from the narrative. I don't really have a problem with characters coming in and out. Jason pointed out that that was kind of how life works. You don't always get to hold on to the really cool people that come into your life. But much like the experiences Krita Kano went through herself, you feel a little empty inside when you realize that she's just not coming back, and it's not even really a problem. After the presence of the two sisters phases out, we are introduced to more mysterious and potentially more harming characters in Nutmeg and Cinnamon Akasaka. These characters have aliases so that they can keep their anonymity from Toru Okada, and they are a mother and son team who deal in a very different brand of psychic abilities. Ultimately, I looked at this book as a split between body versus mind. Obviously, there's a lot of investigation in terms of splitting off the mind and splitting off the imagination, and the mind's ability to transport from one reality to another. I assume the retelling of old war stories is the representation of the body. After all, we're all just bags of bones wrapped in flesh and blood. To this day, I still can't figure out what I'm feeling about this book, and I think that's a huge testament to Murakami's ambiguity as well as ability as a writer. Plenty of other people that I've spoken to about Murakami's work in general have also stated that they felt this kind of emptiness afterwards, and it's a little frustrating because I want to know how I feel about something. But much like Toru Okada, I just sit and wait and ponder and wait and sit and wait some more, as if a strong feeling is just going to show up one day and be like, oh hey, anger here, sorry about the delay. Have you read this book? Have you read any Murakami? How do you feel after reading it? Please tell me. Thanks so much for watching. Bye. Oh, it's in my hair.